We're live right now.
We are definitely live. I can see that we are live.
Yeah. Justin has made a deliberate decision early in his life to focus on all that is wonderful, fascinating, and good in the world, and his people, rather than, as he puts it, climbing the operational ladder. For Justin, chasing interesting projects aligned to his values was his goal, and this led him to roles delivering business consulting projects for PwC and IBM across Europe and beyond, including the rainforest of Nigeria. Amazing. It's been in Nigeria, and he'll tell us some more about that. He's gone around delivering a successful project outcome to letter of the contract, though letter of the contract was never enough. Justin is an amazing individual. He has deep empathy for human experience. And as such, he understands culture, helping people adapt to change was always core. Justin, in 2015, with his free-spirited nature, led an onslaught to starting his own training and coaching business. Feedbacks on Justin's LinkedIn profile often rates his training as the best that they've ever experienced. And I can't wait for that impact session that everybody talks about, impact section with Justin. Justin believes everyone and everybody has a chance to be the best version of themselves with a little support. And it starts with that you are the center, all right, of the strength philosophy and an understanding of oneself. In his work, nothing brings him more pleasure than seeing somebody make a personal breakthrough. And that could be achieving a personal, a career goal, even a business goal. All of this are a newly discovered ability, the ability to increase confidence, greater life happiness, and or satisfaction. Ladies and gentlemen, I have Justin, here live at the Strength Africa studio. He's a Gallup certified strength coach. He's been there doing great feats, and he has also been very resilient. And I'm sure we're going to be having a wonderful time listening on this discussion series with Justin Douglas. Ladies and gentlemen, with a virtual round of applause, please welcome Justin Douglas.
Hey.
Yeah. And I can see
the so much, Taiwo. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for inviting me to this strengths discussion series. It's wonderful to be connected with Africa, where I have a great interest in the continent and all the things that are happening there. For me, it's a kind of special part of the world, and it's wonderful to spend this time with you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Justin, and thank you for coming on board. And whilst I read through your profile, and though we've also connected, a different forum, I recall we connected at the last Gallup summit during the COVID, and that was a virtual summit of some sort. I saw your talents in action. Okay, please, can you give us a rein as to what this whole thing is about? But just before you answer that question, ladies and gentlemen, if you join us for the first time, this is the Strength discussion series where we talk about strength, on how to develop, discover, develop, and deploy your strengths effectively. And just in case you also have a team and you need to get them ingrained with how to be more effective for profit, for performance and positioning, this is the show to watch. So Justin, please write on and tell us what your strengths and how all of this ties in, and then we could get this journey going.
Absolutely. So I'm actually, I had it ready in the chat, so I'm going to put it into both the YouTube chat and also into the Zoom chat as well. So on the screen there, you will see my my strengths profile as defined by Gallup. For people that are new to strengths or have not taken the strengths assessment, I think it's worth just saying, my kind of history with this dates back to around about 2013. I'd actually done my strengths profile earlier, and I'll grab the book. Here it is. This is the book, Strengths Finder. And I was introduced to it in 2004, in fact. And in the back of the book, it's not here because I've taken it out, but there's a chance to take an assessment with an online set of questions, and you come out with your profile. So those of you listening to this may already have a Gallup Strengths profile, and I've now put the top 5 themes of natural talent that are my top 5 in the chat: maximizer, adaptability, empathy, connectedness, and communication. And for those that are new to this, there are in fact 34 of these different themes of natural talent. These are the things that are kind of almost within us from a very, very young age. And the wonderful thing for me, if we wind forward from 2004, when I first did it, to 2013, when I had started to deliver training courses with IBM, which was my employer at the time. And I still remember it to this day. I was in Stockholm in Sweden, and it was a brand new training course for young people looking to kind of develop their careers, and excited to be learning. And I was at the back of the room writing lots and lots of notes. The reason I was doing that was because it was a new course, and I was writing notes so that I could then deliver and teach this training course. But what was so exciting was the fact that strengths was in this course for about 2 hours. And I remember sitting at the back, I can still picture it even today. And there was this moment of like, oh my goodness, now I understand. Now I understand why I love what I do so much. Now I understand why I am so good at it based on feedback. So when we look at my strengths, I think it gives us some clues. So if we take maximizer, okay, that's all about excellence, wanting to take things that are good or great to excellent or superb. And the interesting thing for me is that I genuinely want that for the people I work with. So that's the passion for me. So it's not just about doing things as well as I possibly can. I want the people I work with to be great as well. So the people I'm maybe doing one-to-one coaching or delivering a training course, I want that in real, authentic truthfulness. It's part of my sort of desire and passion for those people. So that was, that immediately think, well, this is great. This suits me very well. If we take adaptability, my number 2, wow, that one, absolutely. Because in training, anything can happen, and it does. You can have technological problems, you can have issues with people in the room, maybe they even are stressed, maybe we've even had medical incidents in the room. So adaptability, incredibly useful in this in the scenario of training and coaching. Empathy, really having a feel for what people are going through. And I think it's quite interesting. I do have some special focus on early careers, and that's because I think that careers are actually quite difficult. And I felt that through my journey, finding my way, my journey, my path. And so empathy, incredibly important and incredibly useful when I'm in a training scenario or a coaching scenario. And then we've got connectedness, which I found a bit more difficult to relate to, but I've now learned to embrace it. And I now see how that, for example, links outside of my main area of work, but it links incredibly well to sustainability, which is one of my other areas of interest and passion. And sustainability and the life of our beautiful planet and the wildlife, it's all connected. Everything joins up. And so I really feel that sense of connectedness. And the same in training or coaching, we all affect each other the whole time. And then finally, communication, you can imagine, very useful in these types of scenario. So I guess that gives you a little bit of a summary of how strengths kind of almost like hit me. It's like, wow, it really hit me, and kind of like, oh my goodness, this stuff really works, because I was exercising my strengths. I was not focusing on the weaknesses. I was looking at my strengths and making them work. And wow, that is where you get accelerated performance. Amazing.
Awesome. I heard you speak. And whilst you spoke, it was clear that you were communicating succinctly. I must say, you're playing actively to your strength. And that takes me on, just a bit to get to know you better. There was something that struck me, on your LinkedIn profile at some point. And I was wild trainer. Who is a business skill wild trainer? Can you please throw on more light as to what it is, and entirely as to what a business skills wild trainer is, and
Sure.
wrap it up.
So the wild trainer, is really about just saying, look, let's not do things in the normal way. Let's, if we want to take some training outside, we do it. We take things outside and we do some stuff there and we learn. It's also about things like this. You can see a flip chart on the wall here. If you come to any event that I do, there's very, very little PowerPoint, tiny, maybe no PowerPoint, because I believe that we get so much more when we're more creative, when we get people up on their feet. So it's all about the interactions and playfulness. So the chance to learn while we have fun and play. So the wild training is kind of like just doing things differently and kind of shaking things up. I mean, I can, for example, remember times when I jumped off a wall in the classroom, which was right beside huge windows with a massive drop down below. And I was jumping from there into the classroom. I mean, this is sort of crazy things. There's another example where I rode a bicycle into the classroom to illustrate a particular point. And, it's great fun and people are surprised. There's a couple of videos actually you can find on my LinkedIn. Maybe I should share it later. But there's one where I burst into a room with a shield and people are throwing paper at me, and all this is to kind of illustrate a learning point. So we have a lot of fun. So that's the wild training theme.
So yeah, I love that bit around doing things differently.
Yes.
And that kind of caught my attention, because even from the word go, our connection, you try to see how we could do things different. And I truly appreciate that, as a skill that, we must embrace, and whilst we were joking, we talked about feedback. And that's the key, all right, to, innovation, where we can creatively differentiate ourselves and add value. Now, I'd like to ask, what's the linkage now? So we've talked about strengths. You've talked about your strengths, your journey of strength into strength, and how you now have understood yourself. Okay, you've also given us a bit as to your person, the roles you play in terms of training and thereabout, and then tied it into an output, being a business skill, wild trainer. Now, I would like to know, and I'm sure a lot of people that are joining us are curious to know, what then is the connection between knowing your strengths and developing your skills? And how can we use this to optimize performance? Okay, knowing your strengths, building your skills, and then how do we how does this lead to optimal performance?
Fantastic, Taiwo. And I think it's a really interesting question, because when we think of business, when we think of developing our careers and our businesses, there are a set of skills that are useful. And there's, some people feel this sense of like, I need to be good at this and I need to be good at that. Maybe it's strategy, and maybe it's presenting, and maybe it's having a competitive edge. Maybe it's being very flexible. Maybe it's about, the tiny effects of how we say things. And how we write things as well, it's sort of things around email, discipline, and all these things. There are so many factors that contribute to great business and great personal development, even financial knowledge. Now, the problem is that if we look at our strengths, we may find that we can't do everything really well. So let's take strategic, for example. So there's within the Gallup framework, there are a set of themes of natural talent that are listed as strategic thinking, one of which is indeed called strategic. Another one in that domain is called futuristic and ideation. That's two, in fact. Now, I think it's quite a good example of how we may feel to ourselves, well, I may be running a startup. I know this is, you're working with startups, Taiwo, in Strengths Africa. And we have this sort of sense of, okay, so I need to be strategic. But am I strategic? If I take myself, no. My strategic strengths are quite low down in my list. So I then have to think, okay, so what do we do about that? Well, there's a couple of things. One is about getting a little bit better. And the other is about partnering with other people who may be stronger in this area. So if we take the first point about getting a little bit better, this is where I think the whole business skills development really fits. What we're saying when people come to a training event with me or other people that are delivering training is we're not saying that people are going to be the best in these particular skills. We're not saying that they're going to be amazing after this training course. What we're saying is that we pick those things that we can deliver a little bit better. We pick out the ideas that we like, that we think, yes, I can do a little bit of that. So it might be something around how we use our voice. If we're presenting a business case to an investor, for example, how are we going to use our voice? We're going to boost our energy. What exercises can we do to boost our energy? Now, this is just one example. And this is the type of thing that I might cover, for example, in a communication training course. So although somebody might not have a natural talent for communication as strong as someone like me in my profile, this does not mean that we cannot develop ourselves a little bit. So I think there's this very important distinction between our strengths and those things that we're not so good at, but that we can develop a little bit. I have this thing called GE. I'm going to type it in the chat. So GE, just like that, GE. And what that stands for is good enough. Okay. So with those skills that we feel we need for our particular role, we can look to develop them to the level that they are good enough. And that is probably going to be good enough to get you through. Now, let's now look at the other side, which is to say, okay, that's good. That helps with the things maybe we're a little bit not so strong. But those things that we are, what we perhaps need a little bit more emphasis is it allows us to then turn maybe to our strengths that we already have, and then we can start maximizing them. So it might be that we are improving our business skills in some area, and maybe we're on a training course. And what I would say to anyone is look at those things that are discussed in any event where you think, yes, that not only is it good, helpful technique or best practices, but it also matches really well with my natural talents. Then we have a wonderful recipe. Then we have the ability to accelerate performance in that particular strength area. Now, I also mentioned about partnerships, and I think that's really important. You can see a book over there called The Power of Two. It's a reminder. It's a reminder to say to everyone, you know, we don't have to work alone. There's always going to be someone there who maybe can help fill the gap. You agree, Taiwo? Yeah.
Absolutely. Say that again.
Yeah, I will. There's always somebody there that can help fill that gap, that can help fuel maybe those areas where you are not so strong. The lovely thing is sometimes we identify a business skill that we need a little bit to improve. We improve it a little, good enough, and then we partner with someone else who's already strong in this area. Wow, we now have some real strength, some real edge and power to differentiate ourselves and our businesses.
Well, remarkable. And there's something astonishing about what you shared as to these linkages. And one of the things that, just further reiterates the discovery of oneself, as a precursor to achieving optimal performance, it's clearly evident with what you shared. And it comes from a point where you know that you are okay as you. It's good enough is not enough, but you may be good enough, but the good being the enemy of great, the way you can be better or optimal in terms of your performance is by collaborating. And almost like you were in the studios with me earlier on, so next week is Sunday is MSME Day declared by the UN, and I was called to come and share my thoughts as to business. And one of the things and that's what really struck me immediately you hit the word collaboration, was that was one of those things that I was advocating for, and that until people start to understand that even in their uniqueness, they can be differentiated. That way, they can collaborate rather than compete. That's the only time we can begin to have global businesses, and that struck a chord with me. So now we're talking about optimal performance. We're talking about success. People are saying, "Hey, I know my strengths." Okay, even if I don't know my strengths, and if anybody has not taken their strength test, take your test. Or even take one personality test or the other, but at least do a test. Just know who you are. Okay, if you go and meet a physician, you'll likely be asked to go and take a test just to know what is wrong with you. Now, the guys that know have a better positioning, okay, to be able to function optimally. So now, driving it down to business, and I just needed to chip that in, and for whoever needs to listen to this, know yourself. Now, develop yourself and then deploy your strengths. But in terms of business and attaining optimal performance, what then do would you say would be the strategies of how we can use these strengths, okay, in achieving optimum or optimal performance in the place of work? I know sometimes people talk about clarity. I know people talk about management tools. People talk about peer reviews. In your own thoughts, based on your experience, having worked for a global company like IBM and now running your own business right now, can you share with us your thoughts as to how we could achieve optimal growth in business?
Well, you mentioned IBM, and it's a great example of a large organization where nearly all the work that we were doing is team-based. And one of the things I've noticed is this sense of, do we get our teams right? Do we truly think about the actual strengths of the individuals? Okay. Now, I remember this actually comes from a training course that I ran when I was at IBM. And I remember that there were two young people in the room. They were working on the same project together. And I remembered a magic moment. And the magic moment was as follows. We had just done a session speaking about strengths, and everyone had taken their Clifton Strengths assessment. So we had, as you said, we start to understand ourselves better. Now, the magic moment was when these two, and they were working quite isolated, just two of them in one project, a small project. And they turned to, I can still see it. I can see exactly where they were standing because it was just, it gave me the goosebumps on my back. It was like, oh my goodness. What happened was these two young people suddenly realized that they had been struggling with some of their respective roles. And what they agreed was to swap elements of their work. so that it was playing to their strengths. And I just absolutely loved that moment. It was this pure sense of, now we're talking about a team that really respects each other for what they are strong in, each person, what they are strong in. And let's try and build the role around that. There is no question, and there's lots of evidence from the Gallup organization, lots of data that shows that strengths-based teams perform much better. They have higher productivity, higher sales, higher profitability, and this is an interesting one, lower safety incidents, quite significant, ranging from something like, if I remember, 20% or something, through to 59% reduced safety incidents, depending on the industry. Now, when you think about that, we're now talking about injury, we're talking about saving lives. If we think about hospitals, where it's very team-based, Gallup have had data from hospitals that shows reduced patient incidents. So we're really now talking about a reduction in errors and therefore maybe saving lives. So I think this is just such an important reminder that says to us that when a team takes a new philosophy, there is a real notable and, in theory, measurable difference in performance. And I think that's very, very special. Now, do these big companies like IBM get this right? Sometimes, often not so. You know, what happens in, I mean, there are just thousands of companies we can think of, even companies that have rolled out strengths to a large level. For example, I'm thinking of Accenture. They are very passionate about strengths. They're using it a lot. I do not know how the teams are performing, but I imagine the teams that are truly embracing it are doing really, really well. And I think you know, it's very noticeable when I speak to some of my colleagues at my old employer, IBM. They are starting to embrace strengths in a really, really great way, and I think it's very exciting. So I guess what I'm saying here is around that sense that there's a long way to go in the world in terms of respecting each other's true strengths. And I think when we do, Taiwo, we really do see a difference in business performance. But it relies on the fact that we're operating as a team, not individually.
Great. And you know, that I confirmed that with one of the greatest men that ever lived. He talked about the 7 habits of highly effective people, Stephen Covey. And whilst he alluded to the factor around synergy as to 1 + 1, and so tying into this your book, you know, the power of 2, it just talks about just even understanding that when we understand ourselves uniquely, and that way we also understand that others are uniquely created for their assignment, we can now borrow, all right, our strengths collaboratively to achieving optimal performance in work, in every other area of our lives along relationship. Yes. Just a minute. I see that a few people have joined us also on this platform, but it would be nice to have the audience point of view. So yes. Is there anyone that wants to say anything? I see Lady Abiloye. I think Lady Abiloye is from Ghana. I see Lady Ifiok. If you just want to say anything or you have a question, we have Justin Douglas in the house. Is a wild, you know, is a business skill wild trainer. Is a Gallup certified strength coach, and this man, he has all it takes. So you probably just want to ask a question. So I'm allowing a few people to talk. I see Kewitiwe. I see Oluwafemi. I think you're joining us for the first time. I see Ronel. That must be from South Africa. Yeah, Joanna. Yeah. Okay. So is there anyone that wants to ask a question or add value to this contribution for those that will be listening? Please just unmute yourself. Lady Ifiok, Oluwafemi, Ronel. You might want to unmute yourself. Okay, now, whilst we go on
Yes.
this, okay, Ronel, okay, great. Ronel, we can hear you.
Yeah, I think the biggest, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, loud and clear. Tell us where you're calling in from, please. Cool.
Okay, I'm calling from Cape Town, and I'm a new coach.
Whoa.
And just qualified in May, but I'm aiming my services. Yeah, and I've been working in the medical field for a long time, and I want to aim my coaching to the medical practitioners. Now, Mediclinic is already a strengths-based company for 5 years, but I see the value in the doctors' rooms. So for me, the challenge is getting the doctors who doesn't have any time to join in into the strengths, because they are a team with their receptionists and administrative people and nursing staff, but they don't have time to spend with them. So my challenge is really lying there. How can I get them as part of the team? Because he is at the end, he is still the manager. So this team thing is very strong focus for me to work in the medical practice. In the practices where we've used it, it lifted the spirits, and it's just empowering the people so much.
Yes.
And even the doctors, we've got 3 doctors in the one practice, they realized what they missed in their jobs, and we're making the changes. And I think in 6 months' time, they will really feel happier doctors. So it's so powerful to see.
Yes. So your challenge is getting these people to have enough time to spend some time on their strengths. Is that right, Ronel?
That's right. Yeah. How can I limit this time spent with a manager here, the doctor, to really get him to still buy in and not delegate this thing to me?
Yeah, it's
any tips there?
it is a difficult challenge, and I think it's true of any skills development. We often put ourselves second, and actually we need to give ourselves that time for our own personal development. I mean, it's difficult to advise exactly what you could do, but I will just share a story. One of my good colleagues here in the UK, she is doing strengths events with doctors here in the UK, lots of them. So she runs an event, usually in the evening, I think, and they spend some time, 2 or 3 hours, like an evening session. And they're really finding the benefit, and more and more doctors want to do it. And I think so I tell that story because I think it should encourage you to say that it is possible, and maybe share the story that the UK people UK doctors are doing this. Maybe we can even get some testimonial for you of how they feel about it. And you can connect with me afterwards, Ronald, and I can maybe help you there. Because I think at the end of the day, when we're trying to convince anyone that this is a great thing, people need to understand what the true benefit is. Now, what I like to say, and this I think is really important with strengths, is I feel it is a gift to the individual as well as wonderful for a corporation or a group of doctors. So it has this fabulous double benefits. It's an individual wonderful thing. So it is, and I literally say that to people, it is even if nothing else happens in your team, this is a gift for you individually. And I would say that to any doctors as well. This is a gift for you individually to give yourself some understanding of your true strengths and how you can start to accelerate and grow in those strengths. It is also a benefit when you're working in teams, if you then share each other's strengths. It doesn't work if you don't share. If you share it, we get some magic happening. The other thing, Ronel, I would say, since you've newly qualified, and well done, congratulations, I would also say, don't forget those wonderful statistics that people that focus on their strengths are 6 times as likely to report feeling engaged in their work or in their role. And people that focus on their strengths over and above their weaknesses are 3 times as likely to report an excellent quality of life. So for me, that is incredibly powerful. Speaking from my own experience, definitely, I feel unquestionably more motivated, more engaged in what I do. I absolutely love my work. Have I got a higher quality of life? Yes, I have. So I can't measure it exactly, but I feel it at the individual level. So I hope that helps, Ronald, give a few ideas, and if it would also be helpful to connect with this specific person, we can do that offline afterwards.
Okay.
Sure, it helps a lot. Thank you.
Great. And just to chip in there, and brilliant, intervention by Justin. The first question I ask myself would be, what then is the activity of being a doctor? So, because of the fact that a doctor has gone through med school, okay, through determination, his intelligence quotient is at this level. Somehow, there's also this hubris, some elements that comes on the individual that thinks and says, okay, you know what, I'm the doctor, I'm in charge. But there's a way that you could take it back, and this is what I usually have with also, people that offer care, whether you are caring for the elderly, whether you are caring in terms of serving food, or you are offering service, is that, you see, the time a patient comes into the hospital, the patient is processed. Now imagine if you are not aware of the gaps from your colleague or your subordinates that process the patient. That could ill-inform you, okay, if they find out that you are inconsiderate, and that would ultimately affect your performance in prescribing the right drugs or the remedy to help solve that problem. So what I usually advise is that sometimes you need to let them see themselves, all right, as part of a jigsaw puzzle, okay? They're just a piece, okay? Until you bring people to that understanding that they're just a piece in the puzzle, you would have missed it. And that's what reiterates the point where Justin started to talk about collaboration, that a team that truly understands that down from the time when vitals are taken, it's an input towards the output and the scaling or the rating of the hospital. Right from the point where the drugs are being administered, it's a rating to the organization. Right from the point where the waiting time, okay, and how they attend to patients, okay, it also ultimately affects, proper diagnosis, all right? And I'll just leave it at that. And I hope that, kind of draws in some essence to you, Ronel. Is Lady Abiloye, you have any questions? If you're, Ronel, you wanted to say something?
Hi, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening. First, I want to say thank you. It's a great privilege to be here. So I'm going to talk with regards to my team. It's a question, though. I currently run a virtual preschool, okay, and we're a small team. We're a team of five teachers, and I'm currently leading that team. And recently, I just, I'm getting used to working on and focusing on my strengths, and it's honestly, I'm taking one strength at a time. Okay, and I felt it was useful to get my team on board because I felt that it's helped me. So one of my strengths I realized is communication, and that explained a lot of things to me, why I would ask for clarification like 10 times, or I would go out of my way to make something clear to another person. And so I tried to bring it to my team to say, look, let's do this together. Let's see how we can individually identify our strengths. And I think that's going to help me with apportioning responsibilities and helping people feel more fulfilled in their roles. However, I find that some of the core responsibilities that I have, I do not feel that particularly in line with my strengths. Okay, now how do I strike the balance there? And these are things that I really love to do, okay? But I do not feel it like it's in line with any of my strengths, okay? So I started with the 5 core strengths, okay? Yeah. And right now, I do not see that it's directly, connected. So how do I strike that balance? Harnessing my strengths and also focusing on my core responsibilities that may not be connected to any of my strengths.
Sure. Taiwo, shall I start?
Yes, please go ahead. Go ahead, Justin.
Ifiok, thank you very much. Yeah, this is one of the big challenges, that sometimes our role may not feel like a perfect match with our strengths profile. There are 2 things I want to alert you to. One, if you were to unlock your full profile, you may find numbers 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, maybe even 11 and 12 out of the list of 34 are more aligned. Because I noticed something you said. You said that some of these aspects of your role you love. And that made me think, okay, great. So if you love them, there's quite a good chance that maybe they are pulling on other strengths that are, as I call it, below level 5. So they might be 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So I think it's worth remembering that, not everything has to link to the top 5. Typically, when we work with people one-to-one, most people find that strengths numbers, that the top 8, 9, 10, maybe 11, maybe 12 are the ones that are kind of in use all the time in their lives. So that might be one factor that is happening here. The second thing I would say is maybe to look at those top 5 and see if there are extra things in there that might actually be, you could sort of almost redirect them to those particular aspects of your role and even enhance them a little more. Maybe I give you an example. So as you've heard, I love what I do. I love doing my training courses. I love doing the one-to-one coaching as well. If you go into my full profile, you will find quite near the bottom of the list are focus and discipline. Okay. Now, the first time I saw this, I had this incredible sense of relief. I was like, oh, at last, Ifiok, I can stop fighting those 2 strengths, which are low down in my list. Now, the reason why that's relevant is because for the work I do, focus and discipline feel incredibly relevant. I've got materials to produce, I've got conversations to have with stakeholders, and there's this sense that, well, I actually need some focus and discipline, but hey, they're quite low down. So although they would support my role, and it's important that they do, I'm just not very good at it. And I've been fighting them a lot. Can I develop some skills? Going back to our business skills topic earlier that Taiwo introduced, yes, I can. I can get a bit better. I can be good enough. But, and here's maybe where the alignment with your point is, Ifiok. What I've actually learned to do is look back at the top again. And I go, aha, Number 2, adaptability. Aha! That means if I'm preparing maybe a flip chart like this 5 minutes before the session goes live, I know that I can do it. I know that I can exercise my adaptability to make that really good. So even though it's important to my role, I'm pulling on my top 5 much more strongly. My maximizer is also going, come on, Justin, you know you want to make it good. So if you have to work until 3 o'clock in the morning, you will do it. And so I share that with you because I hope it gives you maybe a little bit of inspiration about looking at your top 5 and seeing maybe they're not related specifically to the role. Maybe that's more your 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 that you cannot see at the moment. But maybe there are some things in the top that you can use to even enhance your role. So I would not feel at all worried by what you have said. How does that resonate with you, Ifyok? Is that useful?
Yes, it is. It is. I think right now, as you were talking, I'm just thinking of how I can tap into the top 5 to feed on my role, and I'm really looking forward to unlocking the other strengths.
It's a good idea. It's a really great idea.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
No, you're very welcome. And may I just say one other thing, Ifyok? I love your point. You did say that you try and focus on one strength at a time. And that is such a good technique. If you're wanting to practice, and I can see Taiwo giving his thumbs up because he knows the certified strengths coach world as well, just like me. We know that it's easier to focus on one at a time and exercise it. Take hold of it, love it, exercise it, and go, yeah, that was good. I see how that helped me. Maybe I try something else tomorrow. And that's the way to build up the experience in it.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant. And I'm glad, Justin, you're just a, how would I say it now? You're a bag full of ideas, insights, all right, and information. And look at how you just punctured that. I must say that was classic of you and very ingenious. We have a question, in fact, 3 questions from Oluwafemi Akinlawo. I suppose Mr. Oluwafemi, he probably doesn't want to unmute himself or he's busy, but these 3 questions are in the Q&A. The first question is, how do we manage clash of energy to forestall conflict in collaboration? Wow, that's one. So using the clash of energy to forestall conflict in collaboration. The second question is dissimilar views in achieving a feat a sign of positivity or negativity? And then the third question is on self-improvement. Does it come through collaboration or through individual exercise? Over to you, Justin.
Oh, wow. Oluwafemi, thank you so much for the question there. Well, 3 questions. I've got them on the screen here. I think what I'm going to do is just share them in the chat for everyone as well. It's quite nice to see. So let's just pop them in immediately into the YouTube chat as well. Let's do that so that everyone watching this can see those questions, no matter what channel they're on. Just clear that one. I love to share as much information to help people, as you can tell. Yes. Right. So Oluwafemi, I'd like to take actually your 3rd question first. Okay. So on self-improvement, does it come through collaboration or through individual exercise? Well, you may not be surprised when I say I think it's both. I think it's both. I think the individual exercise is about thoughtfulness. It's about going into a situation and saying, I want to try improving this particular skill. So I'm going to personally and privately make a decision to try that today. Now, my secret, and Taiwo did hint at it earlier, is feedback. So my suggestion to you is if you want to improve something and you've decided very, very, what I say, very enthusiastically, you've decided that you want to try something. So maybe, I don't know, let's say it's going to be the first time you're presenting to a senior board of directors or something. Let's say this. And you've decided, yep, I'm going to do that. And there are going to be some other people there. And I am going to specifically try and focus on improving my interaction and handling of questions from this audience. So what I would do is I go, I know what I want to achieve. Now I'm going to engage feedback technique. So I turn to one of my maybe co-presenters or someone else that's going to be there, and I say to them, would you mind giving me some feedback after the event on how I interacted, how I handled the questions? Because I'm trying to put some special effort in improving them, self-improvement. Now, the beauty of this, Oluwafemi, and everyone else listening, is that when we have asked somebody for feedback, two things happen. You have firstly made it easy for that person to give feedback because you've told them in advance that you wish some feedback on a specific item. Secondly, you know that you are being watched. You know that you're going to get some feedback later. Unbelievable. What this does is it creates an automatic feedback loop. You know in your head you will be measured. And so you will absolutely do your best to improve your performance. So I love this. Taiwo raised this when we were talking earlier before the show. Feedback is the breakfast of champions. It's an expression you can find. I'm trying to remember the name of the man who said it. It's off my mind for a moment. But it's true. The power of feedback to accelerate performance is astonishing. So there's an overlap here. There's an overlap. We take an individual personal decision to try something new, but it's through the collaboration, it's through the feedback that we have the power to really see how strong we are improving. We have the power to keep that continuous conversation going. And so I always say to people, ask for feedback regularly because your performance will accelerate. It is absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. I am asking for feedback every single session I do, even if it's a training event or one-to-one coaching. I'm wanting to find out whether it is helpful to them and what specifically they have found good and what specifically they might change next time. So I offer that to you, and I think the answer, therefore, I know it was a long answer, but I hope it gives added power to what you can specifically do. So it's both. It's individual exercise and then through collaboration, through conversations with people. And I think as a team, we can also remember, if we are truly sharing where our strengths are, we can say, look, this is the place for me to be strong. I will exercise this part of my strength. Let me go for this. If I've got ideation, for example, let me go and sit in a corner and come up with some ideas. Then I'll come back to you and discuss. So I think it works both. Does that help, Oluwafemi? Maybe you can give a kind of thumbs up or something. Maybe it's.
Or you could just unmute yourself.
Yeah,
Oluwafemi. Okay.
He's highly satisfied. It's come in the chat. Brilliant, brilliant.
Okay, great.
So we better answer the other two questions.
Okay, but Justin, just so that, because I love and I'm sure Oluwafemi would connect with you succinctly. But let's try and keep it because we need to zoom out in the next 7 minutes.
Yeah,
okay?
I can see that. So I'll answer them briefly.
Yeah.
The second question, are dissimilar views in achieving a feat or an objective a sign of positivity or negativity? This is question number 2. The answer to that is, I hope it's positivity. It's all about how you do it. It's about how you do it. And I think this raises a very important point about respecting people's differences. And I think strengths can be a beautiful language to help understand a little bit more about how people are and how they come with different views and opinions. And so I yes, of course, Oluwafemi, it can be negative, but let's try and turn it around. Let's try and build that sense of positivity. So it's about respect. It's also about listening carefully to people and asking carefully crafted questions. So I paint a vision of positivity, but of course in life, and we know that this can be a problem, which is why maybe sometimes we need special people that come in and help resolve conflict, which leads us on to your first question. How do we manage that clash of energy to avoid or forestall conflict in collaboration? Same sort of thing. I think it's about, carefully being ready and open to listen to people. And sometimes, yes, Oluwafemi, we need an expert in the room. Sometimes we need a coach who is there to facilitate and help smooth that conflict scenario. And in very serious situations, we need really, truly expert negotiators. For example, in a war situation. In normal conflict, it is about bringing people together through a trained coach. That can work extremely well. And in fact, there's another webinar available from Gallup that where there was a guest of Gallup who focuses specifically on conflict. But in brief, Oluwafemi, I think it is about sharing. It's about taking a new attitude. It's about saying, what is the strengths of our team? Let's look at that. Let's understand each other better, because when we understand each other better, we are more forgiving to our differences. That is the first step. I hope that answers your question. Great. Yeah.
I love that. So Ronald dropped in the Q&A, and that was brilliant. I must say, brilliant. I didn't expect anything less, and I'm glad Olufemi found that very helpful.
Yes.
Ronald dropped in the question and answer box. It says, if everyone sings the same notes, there is no harmony, almost positive. So there's a need for everyone to have either discuss, there are different views, but that noise becomes the rhythm, and that's the synergy of strength. And we're taking it home now. So there are many hats that Justin wears, and one of those hats is the hat around sustainability.
Yes.
And where Justin is inked on having to not pick up a phone, a new phone, because he believes that it can deplete the environment. Where Justin is particular as to how we do this, the use of paper, and several other things. And I think that's brilliant. This just shows that even in our day-to-day life, we must think, what next? What next?
Yes.
So what's your hope? What's your hope along these journeys of sustainability, even with strength, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's something I worry about all the time. Let me just show you. Here is my face mask. Okay, it's one of my face masks. But what I want to show you about it is that it's a reusable one. I have not used a disposable one for the whole year. And that's an illustration of how I feel we need to make changes. Instead, outside, and I'm sure in your own locations, you see these disposable ones on the street, and it's just so terrible. They get in the sea, and then they maybe damage wildlife. That's my connectedness speaking, by the way. So my hope is really for a more sustainable way of doing business, living with nature more strongly rather than destroying it. And I know it's a massive challenge, but I feel it's so important. And as a result, one of the things I'm keen to do is bring strengths to organizations that are very ethically focused, maybe trying to tackle climate change, maybe trying to improve biodiversity. So this is something I have a kind of vision for, something I want to keep working on. I think there's one message I would give to everyone, because I'm sure that other people listening here worry about the future of our planet for children and the children of our children. And that is never give up. Never give up. Always, always remember that everything that we do, even if it is picking up a disposable, face mask and putting it in a proper disposal area, even if it's just small things that we do, I measure it with a very simple philosophy. Is it good? Is this a good thing to do? Maybe you're helping your neighbor with something. Is it a good thing to do? If it's a good thing to do, we should, I believe, do it and not give up. Even if the long-term journey for everyone in our planet is hard, everything we do that is inherently and philosophically good is worth doing, because for that moment, you make something better. And I think that plays very well to my maximizer strength as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's almost like this was just a 2-minute discussion, but it's amazing how we've been on for almost an hour, uninterrupted. And we're closing really quick. Now, what next? What next? What next? You brilliantly brought up this whole concept around business optimal performance or optimal performance in business. You brought it in, tying it into strengths, talking about how your understanding will lead to better collaboration. We've had thoughts from Ronelle. We've had Oluwafemi take us on a roller coaster. And then even Ifyo, she dropped just a bomber right there saying that one strength at a time. I'm saying amazing, amazing. The audience just went wild. And look, and I know a lot of people are saying, hey, Justin, so what next now? So what next for you? What next this month? What next for you? What do you want to do? What next?
Well, I mean, I love these conversations, and it's been fascinating over this one whole year, this pandemic year that we've had. A lot of my business disappeared. All the training courses were cancelled. But one thing that happened is new opportunities were possible, such as, I've done many more web-based events like this, interviews. I love doing this kind of thing. I started writing for an online media platform in the USA, which is just great. And these things don't happen unless we go out with a sort of positive attitude, and we're searching for opportunities. And we spoke about this, Taiwo, didn't we, yesterday? Connecting with people, because I have this fundamental belief that we always have a choice. We might be sitting next to somebody waiting for a bus or a train or something, and we have a choice. We can either have a conversation or we can pretend we've never seen them. My recommendation to everybody is try and engage, because you never know where it will take you. It might take you nowhere, but it might take you somewhere very good. And so an example of that is through just being super positive and giving feedback to a business based in the UK on investing, financial investments, and particularly my interest, ethical financial investing. Well, through that one conversation, which was just a customer service conversation, now I'm in touch with one of their senior people, and we may be doing a strengths event for their business. So this is, I share this as a story because I think there's so much opportunity, but we have to make the effort to have the conversations. And so this is what I hope. I hope I kind of, for me personally, for my business, I hope that as I've mentioned, I'm able to steer it towards people that are doing great things in this world. I want to do more one-to-one coaching as well, executive coaching, but also helping people early in their careers. And it's interesting with the cancellation of many training courses that I had booked by one of my major clients. I've got more space for some of these new opportunities. So that's very exciting to me. So I'm positive, Taiwo.
Beautiful, beautiful. And if you just joined in, well, we're about wrapping up this show. This is a strength discussion series, and this comes to you every Thursday, 2 p.m. West African time. And essentially, we just discuss around strengths, knowing your strengths. And this is not about lifting weights. It's about having to develop yourself personally from the point of discovery to the point where you develop yourself and deploy yourself effectively to achieving great results. Technical, it would be nice to have Mr. Justin's profile details up on, but there's something you said, Justin, just before I close the room. You said, hey, we must stare every of our aiming it. We must aim it towards a goal. And so if anybody is listening, all that we have talked about, do you have a plan? Do you have a destination? Because it's almost like if you have no goal in mind, then you're going nowhere. So how best can you use your strength if you don't have a set goal, a set plan, notwithstanding COVID, notwithstanding the challenges? Well, look, I've had a beautiful time. Can we have displays of Mr. Justin's details for anyone that wants to reach him? And if you've not done the strength test, there's a link in the chat room. You can reach Mr. Justin Douglas. He's a certified strength coach. Much more, is a business skill wow trainer. He does it differently, and is a sustainability expert. And this all ties into all that we've been saying. The collaboration that we have today started off at a conference, a global conference in Gallup. Okay, and Justin and I go way back, not from now, but from that conversation, and we've taken it on in mild order. So maybe sometime soon you see both of us training, maybe in Nigeria or somewhere in the Scandinavians, and we'll truly be enhancing and playing to our strength. Ladies and gentlemen, if you need to reach Mr. Justin, you have his details. He's on Instagram, he's on LinkedIn. I put his LinkedIn link into the chat box. You could reach him on his email and his website. And let's have your feedback. Remember, it was Ken Blanchard that said, feedback is the breakfast of champions. So whatever you think you loved about the strength discussion series, please drop it in the chat wherever you're logging in from. You could also send us a mail. It's info@strengthafrica.com. And I'm sure we could take this on better. I'd like to just acknowledge some of the people on here. Kewitiwe says, thanks for a great topic. We have, someone says, Oluwafemi says, you're highly great at your view and respect. And your response. Somebody says, okay, so we have all of those things there, and I'm just so amazed at the feedback we've gotten, and we'll need more feedback. Send us a mail, drop it in the chat box, and let's get going. I'll be closing this room after the final one-line statement from Justin.
Final one-line statement. My goodness, Taiwo, that's hard for me with communication and in my strength. But look, I've hugely enjoyed being with you. I hope people have enjoyed it. We've seen some lovely comments coming in, but I really want to thank you, Taiwo, for inviting me to join you. I have, real interest and respect for Africa. It feels a very kind of, it's an emotional thing for me. So I really thank you. And it's a great example of that, that philosophy of connecting, because we, as you said, we connected at a virtual conference and look where we are now. And I wish everybody much success with their careers, with their businesses, and in life in general as well, because I think that's something we must remember, that strength is for life, not just work. It's everything.
Whoa. Strength is for life and not just for work. And on this note, guys, I would love to shut down the room at the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Bye.
Bye.